place you would like to invest, especially in the rainy season. In the rainy season, Chamberlain, I can tell you, the northern part of Nigeria simply looks glorious. You can just, it's like as if the Almighty himself cut the grass. And you can just see everywhere plain and green and lush. Hey, if you're from the south, don't get
angry. You have golf champions from there.
You know, don't get angry. This is about just admiring what the savannah looks like, you know, in the rainy season. The south, we're used to our thick tropical forest. We love it. I mean, but for tropical forest, where will we get all of those prized wood from, you know, the Iroquois and all the other beautiful trees that we celebrate today? But here's what we have in the north of Nigeria. Every area endowed with its own beauty from the Almighty himself. Really, really a sight to behold.
I just love us to also begin to have some significant economic positions or deliberate economic intentions or activity or policy to ensure that each region has some economic landmark such that it will now feed into maybe cottage industries. You never know.
Yeah, and that's what it should be. And I think those are the kind of hopes that people have for this local government autonomy. I mean, those are the kind of things that they are hoping will happen, that if there is more money at the local level, then there should be more investment at that particular level in such a way that there is wealth in the hands of the people.
Absolutely.
That's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, so today we expect quite a number of activities. The police will be having some meeting. So the IGP's conference, well, IGP will be meeting with, I think they call them police managers, but chances are that they will also speak about all of this talk about what? Protest here, protest there, planned activity here or not. So I don't think they'll gloss over that, because the Commissioner of Police in FCT, last time he was addressing the press about some of those suspects who were apprehended, he did appeal to residents in Abuja not to participate in any protest so they can have peace. So you can imagine that if this conference is going to hold today, then they might as well just speak about it, because they had previously sent out word to mobilize their other police officers across the country to put on their, what, is it eagle eye? Elephant. Eagle, well, whichever eye.
Eagle or elephant eye. You know, the other day I saw an owl. For the very first time, I saw an owl at night.
What a sight to behold.
And yeah, I was working with my husband, and he said, you know, that's the DSS looking at And I said, what's a symbol? Anyways, this is basically what we're saying. There's so much more happening. Can we beg the police not to beg people to participate? It's their right. If they choose to participate, I think that what the police has on its hands is to ensure that it is orderly, it is within certain confines. In other words, it's not hijacked. And I think that's the word they like to use. That's the duty of the police. But as for the people, it is their right to protest if they so please to do so. Other things that are happening, that is the AFCFTA. You have the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa having a conversation on AFTA. I think it'll be quite an interesting one. Don't forget that the first shipment of, products making their way into the West, or coming from
Nigeria to
other countries, you know, made its way out just about 2 weeks ago or so. So I think there's conversation around how this is going to be affecting other African economies. I think it'll be quite an interesting conversation, because in my opinion, I would say this kind of talk, shouldn't it have come before? Is it now that it's starting, they want to see what the effect will be? Whatever it is.
Maybe they want to keep the momentum going.
Possibly, but this is what it is about. I mean, it's the Center for the Study of Economies of Africa, CESA, that is having this conversation. I certainly think that it will be worth listening to.
But then you also have another scenario about this said planned conference. So I think they say they call themselves Middle Belt Youths. So they say they will be talking about that today. Who knows what will be. What they want to say about all of these things, but I guess the conversation will continue. Even the NLC president has also dropped a letter about the said planned protest. So those groups will also be meeting.
What's the NLC
today.
president saying?
Well, he did advise the presidents to dialogue with those the organizers. Well, I think they
the problem now is we don't know the organizers.
Well,
or do we?
I was wondering, maybe they assume that the government will know, because if you're government, you should be like, what, the owl? You're everywhere, you're seeing different things.
360 degrees.
You know, so who knows? So that will also happen today. There's also business, isn't
it? Yes, there is business, which will be coming up at 10 a.m. And I believe that we will be having a conversation on, just give me a moment now to quickly get that out for you. Yes, business growing concerns on the quality of petroleum products in Nigeria. That's what we're talking about this morning on Business Morning. Very interesting headline, growing concerns on the quality. Don't forget that in this back and forth that has been on between Dangote and its regulators, there have been questions about the quality of diesel that was being brought into the market. But just yesterday, the House of Representatives inaugurated an ad hoc committee. Is it an inaugural hearing on a number of issues around the petroleum industry following their visit to the Dangote Refinery. And I think one of the things that the Deputy Speaker also talked about, who he was representing the Speaker there, is that, the agencies responsible for checking the quality of products that come into the country, NMDPRA, the Standards Organization of Nigeria, need to continue to check, need to implement stringent measures of checking the products that are coming into Nigeria. Our people, we don't have a lot of money as a people. The best thing we can do for ourselves is to prevent a lot of things. People are dying of lung cancer, people who never smoked a day of their lives. And these are things that can affect anyone. People have all manner of ailments. So I think that we really should be particular about what really comes into our country. Let's do ourselves that favor. There were allegations. I heard Mr. Aliko Dangote allege that some of the certificates of products that are brought into the country are faked. If this is really the situation, can we stop doing things like that and truly look at the quality? Let people be able to walk about their country freely, inhaling good air. Not because electricity is off, then people put on their diesel generators. You can't even take a stroll in your neighborhood. It is terrible, Chamberlain.
But think about it. If Mr. Dangote hadn't said it, would anybody else have said it? How would we have known?
Yes, so those are some of the allegations that are out there, and the House of Reps is simply asking them to,
certain people are not doing their jobs.
To do their jobs, and I think that is coming up for discussion at 10 a.m.
All right, so let's take you through some of the dailies this morning. Here are some of the papers we've got for you this morning. We're starting with Daily Times today. NLC to Tinubu address public grievances amid looming national protest. Urges president to invite protest organizers for dialogue. Tinubu, traditional religious leaders caution youths against planned protest. That's a big lead on the front page there this morning. Reps to sanction agencies, companies over alleged $60 billion inflated cash calls. So that you see at the bottom strip of the Daily Times here today. Nigerian News Direct, no protest needed. We're tracking hardship, economic downturn. Tinubu appeals. Nigerian Tribune is the next one here today, and they focus on a different narrative. Bill to establish LG Electoral Commission. Don't undermine federalism. Political parties, others warn. So you might want to know what that is about if you pick up the paper and you'll find that out. But beneath that lead story, FG moves to resolve crude supply dispute with Dangote Refinery. Well, many sure might have heard a thing or two about this. But look at some of the riders this morning. Lokwabiri meets with Dangote, NNPCL, NNDPRA, NUPRC bosses. Reps set for nationwide forensic audit of imported adulterated petroleum products. Flag off probe of non-supply of crude oil to Dangote Refinery. Others. So those That's what you see right there on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune here today. The blueprint is the next one. 50% levy in 2024 amendment bill targets banks only, ascribed to federal government and National Assembly. The writer says decision may put future investments at risk, ascribed to experts. CBN commercial banks appear before lawmakers today. Probably some more explanations on that planned policy. All right, so yeah, quite a number of interesting scenarios right there this morning. But this bit about undermining federalism, political parties, and others warning. So about that bill to establish that government commission, we'll also highlight that and hear from some of our analysts here this morning what they think about all of that, especially after the court had ruled on local government autonomy, which the Nigerian Tribune highlights this morning. So it will be interesting to see what they think about all of those things. Should it be, should it not? So if the bill is already before the House and then the National Assembly, does it mean a fait accompli? Would there be public hearings? So all of those concerns and conversation will play out. And if it does go through, how do we guarantee that we will get the desired impact? So quite a number of interesting scenarios we expect to focus on today. That's why we wanted to just keep it right here this morning.
I think we can just, wrap it up there. I'm looking at something. It's around this planned protest as well. Very disturbing headline on the front page of New Telegraph. Not really one I'd like to highlight, but this is the reality of many people these days. If you live in a community where you have a bin outside your house, initially it used to be the scavengers were the ones who were, by scavengers I meant the people who were looking for valuable materials that could be recycled. For instance, plastic bottles, metal pieces, etc., etc. They wouldn't let your bin be. But these days, you're getting more and more, will I say, destitute people who are besieging the bins of people outside of their homes and looking for just anything to eat. It is a truly disturbing sight. And the fact that it is making its way to the front page of a national daily, tells a very, very disturbing and heart-wrenching story. It's right there on the front page of New Telegraph. Planned protest, eating from dustbins, now luxury. Address cries of Nigerians, NLC tells Tinubu. That's the lead story on the front page of the New Telegraph. Let's leave it there for our paper review this morning.
All right, well, back in just a moment. Stay on with us.
Investing in the capital market can be tricky as the numbers move in different directions. Sometimes the bull bellows, other times it's the beer that roars. In all of these, an investment decision has to be made. On Capital Market, we help you take the right decision. Join us at 7 p.m. every Saturday, only on Channels Television. Capital Market, investment tips for you.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com, click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
Bad governance have dominated conversations, especially on the social media space. This also forms the crux of the news conference by members of the Miyetti Allah Kautahore Sociocultural Association, announces its dissociation from the planned nationwide protests.
We even view the protest as an attempt to sabotage the takeoff of the ministry. So definitely, not only our youths, our ardos, every conscious pastoralist will not join any protest now.
In a related development, members of the Northern Nigeria Youth Forum also announced their withdrawal from the protests.
The situation we are in Nigeria is artificial, even though the economic hardship is a global matter. All over the world are facing it. But by the grace of God, we are still standing on, calling on government, but not this protest that these people want to organize. Because why we say these people were out of them, and we are calling on our sons and daughters of Northern Nigeria to withdraw.
To come up with a position that is going to be the best for the nation.
However, the Forum of Former Leaders of the National Association of Nigerian Students appears uncertain about its position.
We have resolved not to participate in any protest, and we have resolved to also give government time. No, not resolve. Our position, we cannot at no time stop anybody, because when we were students, we protested. So during that time, on that situation, we have not taken a decision to make sure that we are consulting other sister organizations to come out with a position. At no time have we in any way accepted that we are not going to protest. There's nothing of such discussed.
Yet some of their members are optimistic about the policies of the government.
The student loans program is laudable, and we applaud President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the policy. We believe that the policy will reduce dropout rates and in a long time increase our innovative and productive workforce.
Although there's no clear indication of those behind the protests, there have been numerous calls across the country for patience and dialogue instead of protests.
We even view the protest as an attempt to sabotage the takeoff of the ministry. So definitely, not only our youths, our ardos, every conscious pastoralist will not join any protest now, because we have suffered too much in this country. We have faced persecution, we have faced prosecution, we have faced propaganda of different nature. Now we have an opportunity to support government to develop this ministry, and people are coming up with a planned protest. I don't think our members, whether conscientized or not, will not join any protests. And we want whoever is protesting to avoid our cattle markets, to avoid the assets belonging to the pastoralists, because if you think you can protest, you see our cows, you think they are cheap meat. It's an expensive business to touch our cattle.
Right, so quite a number of issues on the burner here today, but we've got two gentlemen joining us to shed light on the goings-on in the country. Honorable Ehiozu Agbonaima is a former chairman, House Committee on Nigeria-U.S. Parliamentary Relations, and former chairman, Ad-hoc Committee, the investigator PENCOM at the time. Sitting beside him is Chief Godson Okoye, who himself is a former presidential candidate of UDP. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much.
Honorable, let me start with you. I mean, you know, several conversations, I'm sure you might have also heard it. Discontent, growing concerns about the impact of the policies that the government has. It doesn't, well, they say, yes, we're doing a lot to come up with very good policies, but the result out there appears to be the challenge. Many don't seem to be feeling the impact of those policies. They see the figures still going south, and so the discontent, and why something that, look, we need to hit the streets and get our voices heard. You've heard that, haven't you?
Well, let me first of all thank our viewers, and good morning to everyone out there. I'm happy to be with you. Let me just say this without your favor. This country belongs to all of us. Mr. President alone cannot solve the problem facing our dear nation. Of course, we all know it over the years, how this country has been bastardized. Corruption has eaten us deeply. And when you fight corruption, corruption fights back at you. You are aware of all the investigation that I did when I was in the House. And to the glory of God, I'm still fighting corruption as a Federal Commissioner Code of Conduct Bureau. And you see, President, Bola Tinubu, GCFRO, is not perfect. I am not perfect. None of us are perfect. With all the policy he has brought to bear, no man will want to do something that will affect people that he tried to govern, rather to uplift the Nigerian people. But we do have people that are not willing to put Nigeria first. Like I've often said, there are 3 tenets of democratic doctrine that must be adhered to. Namely, loyalty, participation, and commitment to your dear nation. You must participate in those things that will bring dividends of democracy to the yearning of the people. And you must be committed to your country. You must do everything humanly possible so that Nigeria can be among the leading nations.
You said there are 3 concerns.
Yes.
Loyalty,
participation, and commitment.
Commitment.
You must be committed. You must participate. You must be loyal. Are you loyal to your country?
Is that from the level of leadership? Are you asking for...
All Nigerians put together. My friend, we were discussing just now. We Nigerians, all of us put together, one way or the other, we have not been able to do those things, to adhere to these 3 principal tenets of democratic doctrine. Loyalty, participation, and commitment.
We're all to blame? For
all of us are all to blame. Now, in election, I've contested for election, which you know. Crow eyes. See me, see you. My mandate was stolen. INEC ring the election. And the man who did it was caught by DSS. DSS did wonderfully, did a fantastic investigation. They took him. He was brought to tribunal. DSS came to testify. The chairman of the tribunal said the DSS report is inconsequential. The DSS who came to testify, he said testimony is consequential. Now, at the end of the day, we went to appeal. The justice, Ihemowosu, a wonderful woman, do you know what happened? They tried to bribe her, she refused. She was kidnapped. They oddly killed the driver. She was in captivity for over 30 days. Today, that woman is now the justice of the Supreme Court. That is a kind of woman that should be celebrated in this country. Somebody that will refuse bribe. Okay, so all of us put together in this country, we should stop blaming one, say President Tinubu. Where are the governors, for God's sake? We have 36 governors in this country. What have they done? What about those living in their states? Federal allocation is coming. What do they do with the federal allocation?
What do you think about this, Chief?
Because there's no local government anymore.
Let's hear from him as well.
Well, thanks for the very lovely question, and thanks to the audience. And my colleague, my friend there, he made some valid point, but the issue remains. You do not put something on nothing and expect it to stand. And the way the people in government have behaved is the reason why the people are reacting. If you're insensitive to what people are saying, to what people are feeling, it may come to a point where everybody will say, okay, to hell with everything. And that's where we're gradually getting to. And it's not a very, some people will say, well, this is an interesting time, but not in a positive note. Like in law, they will tell you, in negligence and in the issue of duty of care, they say you owe your neighbor a duty of care. And somebody will say, who's your neighbor? And in some cases, especially Lord Atkins, in the case of Donovan and Stevenson, said it clearly. It is not the person that is only physically close to you. It is the person that is likely to be affected by your negligent conduct. That person is your neighbor. The person that is likely to be affected by your negligent conduct or omission, and who are supposed to have unreasonable contemplation when making an act. But the people that have governed us, they have not done that. They owe Nigerians a duty of care. And if they lived up to that duty of care, subsidy is gone. It shouldn't have been the first statement on the day it was sworn in. And that's why these things are happening this way. Subsidy is gone. It's like you attend a burial and you say, I killed this man.
So should we bring back subsidy?
No, it's not about bringing back subsidy. Even if you want to do that, it's not the first to do. You don't even handle it that way. It's like when you startle a child and when you startle an adult, the reactions are different. Even if you want to do it, if it is the only thing you must do, timing is important. How you do it is important. And that's why all the measures that are being taken now are like fire brigade. They are like these are things that should have been done. You prepare the ground. I mean, it's like you're going to farm and you carry yam and throw inside the bush. You know you choose them, but it can never grow. Or it can never even grow to be fruitful. You must clear the ground, you must till the ground, and then put the yam in there. And then believe that at least termites or beetle will not eat it. And it will germinate and produce what they want. There was no preparation for that statement. And that statement has derailed everything. Because petroleum, oil and gas is at the heart of what makes Nigeria move around. And everything about it, you must be careful. And that's why I talk about duty of care. You owe Nigerians a duty of care. And haven't made that announcement. Everything is eroded. So we're only trying, it's like you want to farm and you go and open a dam. Clears everything you have done.
So whilst, I think that, yes, indeed, subsidy is gone was the president's statement.
Yes.
For some people, they will tell you that where the subsidy was announced as being gone was not really where the problem started. The problem started when subsidy was taken away from the forex sector. That's when things turned upside down, really. Because at that time, I don't know whether to say it's Naira that was floated or it's dollar that was floated. I don't know which one, because all of them now exactly, all of them are floating now. But if we were to look at it,
yes,
it would seem that Nigerians at that period were bracing, and there was uncertainty. They were bracing for what exactly will be the situation with subsidy on petroleum, especially petroleum, especially petrol.
Yes.
But the subsidy on dollar. The CBN setting the exchange rate, and then all of a sudden saying, no, market forces will determine that. It would seem that that's what sent everything into a spin.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
The people that rule the country should know better. And they should know if we take this action A, or if we formulate this policy, the likely consequence, we're going to do B to contain it. Those things were not there. There must be safety nets for you to do any particular action or implement any particular policy. So haven't done that, and then you now follow it up with this other one. That's what in law is called contributory negligence. But you have done one, and instead of continuing, you do another one. And that one you think you are doing, it in no way helps you to contain
that's the moment. In a country where you know that some people, their job is just to take position and wait for what government will say. I mean, regardless of whatever government does, I mean, we've been told that how monies of this country are in the hands of private people.
Yeah, of course.
Or private pockets. And that if you were to put the wealth together of those people, they most likely can run down this country. Do you agree with, have you heard that before?
The monies that we're talking about, yeah, of course, it's in private hands. I mean, individuals put together a region in Nigeria.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
So in that kind of situation, do you think that, I mean, how likely is it that, those kinds of policies, I mean, waiting to see or announcing before you make a move, in that sort of situation, do you really think that is really feasible?
But what's wrong with consultation? That's part of governance. You consult with people. Even my people say, if you have too many enemies, you buy drinks for some, so that they can at least let you be. Do you understand? If you have too many enemies, once upon during the Second World War, at the time, Hitler had non-aggression pact with Britain. But at the time when he felt comfortable, he breached it himself. So the point is, you have to consult. That's part of governance. Like my friend had talked about governors. The governors are in the state, who do they consult in what they are doing? Okay, take for instance, people talk about Obasanjo. Obasanjo came in, he put people in ANPP, it was APP then, he put them in government. The national chairman of the party was part of his government. But since we have been doing this and we have been clapping with one hand, there is no way you would tell me that APC has only is a concentration of all the intelligent people in Nigeria, or people that can be effective. I mean, you seek out people from wherever they are, and then use them to solve your problem. Was Okonjo well in any party before she was appointed to government? You see, but unless you have to, we must have an open mind. What we are running is a closed system that will not help in any way. Okay. Solutions can be found from different angles.
Let me quickly take Honorable Agbonaima on this one.
Before you go further, I would like to respond.
Yeah, before you respond to him, I want to take you up on the question, because you have said that we are all to blame. That was your opening statement. Your opening statement, you know, says that it's Nigerians that are to blame. So because some people will ask the question, yes, whilst yes, there will be different levels of blame as to, you know, what exactly is happening right now. Leadership will bear the greater blame. They will bear the greatest blame. As a matter of fact, they will bear the greatest blame. So I'm just wondering, from what you have seen of leadership so far, be it at the federal level, be it at the state level, be it at the local government level, do you think that our leaders have shown through their deeds and behavior within society that indeed there is hardship and is affecting them?
Well, before I answer your question, definitely I will. Let me just say this. If you could remember, the very day Mr. President was sworn in at Eagle Square, he merely said that he was going to remove fuel subsidy. And don't forget, all that is gone. Hold on.
He merely.
He pronounced that he was going to remove fuel subsidy.
He said fuel subsidy is gone.
That
was the declaration. He didn't say he was going to.
Okay, let's assume it's gone.
That's what he said.
Okay, it's gone at Eagle Square.
Yes.
It has not been, removed.
That tells you what power he carries.
Hold on.
He's the president.
Let me tell you, at that Eagle Square, at the fuel pump, people have already jacked up. The price of fuel went up the ceiling. Tomatoes, onions, pepper, gone off the roof. Even water leaf in the villages, they have gone off the roof. And is it not the same removal of fuel subsidy that other candidates of different political parties campaign with? Former Vice President Atiku campaigned of removing fuel subsidy. Former Governor Peter Obi campaigned in removal of fuel subsidy. Gwagwaso, essentially former governor, campaigned against removing fuel subsidy. So the same President Tinubu campaigned removal of fuel subsidy. Now,
so what's the point there?
The burden of proof now. The issue is this. Those that have messed up, like I've said before, the crude oil stolen from this country that have gone to global destination, that have brought to bear, that have investigated, that the whole country, that China took it upon, this station, you took it upon yourself to join me, and you all did a fantastic work by trying to unearth, to push this. But guess what? What happened? Governor of Central Bank, former governor, Emefiele, over 67 trillion. I can quote, I can say without missing words, stolen from him. The former Accountant General of this country stole over 211 billion that we investigated. Guess what? So, that is a man that is giving chieftaincy title, Ikano. So we celebrate mediocrity, we celebrate corruption.
So wait, if I understand you, you're passing the buck from leadership again to the people.
All of us, including you and I, all of us. Because seeing a crime,
what did we
refusing to report the scene of that crime to the nearest law enforcement agency, you and I is as guilty as the man or woman committed that.
You reported that, you got support, and you reported this, you highlighted it. What came of it?
It's a continuous fight. You must continue to fight. This is not an issue, it's just showcase on one show or two shows, you end. Go to America.
So the question now is, well, you have deviated to you've responded to that. Exactly, leadership. Let's go back again to leadership.
Now, leadership.
We have since
let me answer a question now.
Yes.
Let me tell you this. There's an adage I will tell you, very simple. An elderly man who was the head of the clan, he sent a message, one of his workers, to go to the community, go and give these 200,000 naira to the community because they deserve to have it to solve some of the problem. And he got there, He gave them 2,000 naira and came back and reported to the head of the clan that I've given them the 20,000 naira. So
20,000 or 200,000?
Just 20,000 naira. I'm just making, Do you know the staff who went for that errands pocketed 18,000 naira, and he came back to report to the head that he have submitted the money, you have given them the money, and they will all say, okay, no problem. Until they came to the house of the head of the clan that, oh, thank you for the money you sent to us. He said, what was given to you? He said, it was 2,000. He said, what? He called the messenger and said, what happened? I gave you 20,000. He said, sir, I gave them 20,000 naira. So now, can Mr. President, Tinubu, sitting in Abuja, correct the governors in Edo State, correct the governor in Ondo, correct the governor in Akwa Ibom, correct the governor in Lagos? Can he be at the same place? Now, it is the commitment I have said before.
What about the ministers who he appointed?
Thank you.
Who reported him?
Thank you. The same minister.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this. There are people that try to derail the will of progress of Mr. President.
The ministers? Some ministers?
Some.
And they're still in government?
That is what I'm saying, that Mr. President must do the needful to send them packing. Some of them are not working.
So why are they there?
And some governors are not supposed to be governor. They are not supposed to be. Even though we are pointing fingers,
which ministry?
Even though they are pointing fingers, we are talking about the center.
Hold on. Which ministry have you not seen? Which ministry have you not seen enough from?
Have you done your investigative journalism yourself?
No. You said some
Go and conduct your investigative journalism as a journalist.
Are you passing the buck again?
Professional as you are.
Can I say so?
Are you passing the buck again? You said some ministers are not working. And we're asking you, which ministries haven't you seen?
I can tell you, I can raise some of the ministers are not working. And I know, and Mr. President...
Which ones are you not satisfied with?
Mr. President is watching everybody. The report card is coming to him. And just watching, giving the opportunity.
Which ministries are you not happy?
Those who bastardize this country, they are working freely.
Honorable,
and nobody is talking about it.
Which ministries?
Mr. President, he cannot alone fight the problem of this country alone. That's what I'm saying.
You don't want to name which ministries you're not happy with, so the president can know. And
so you want to hear from me? Go and do your job.
So you're passing the bucket. So how will the president work if you can't tell him?
He knows, he understands those who are not working. He understands the governors that are trying to derail the will of this progress of the country, that have stolen the resources coming to their state, goes to voice me. As money comes, they travel outside the country. So every problem is on top of Mr. President, when it's unfortunate.
One U.S. president once said, the buck stops here. Mm-hmm. The buck stops here. That's why you're president. And that's why you campaign for it. And that's why the office is different. Whatever is done from that office affects everybody. And don't also forget, yes, Nigeria is said to be a federal system, but in practice, it's more like a unitary system. For those that understand the two systems, the way the things have been happening. And then it also brings in the duty of vicarious responsibility of members of the party. Like when Buhari was there, Buhari did not, he was not an independent candidate. In contested, there were people that were his enablers. There were people that drafted him, and they ran on a party. And how did that party control or checkmate what was going wrong? Everybody sat back and watched things go wrong. And then it's convenient now for people to say, oh, it was another administration that did that. Even if it's another administration that even did that. This is what you are all in the same party. And that brings to another issue of when people are in government, they weaken political parties. And political parties, because if political parties are strong and they can checkmate their members, including the people in office, some of these things won't be happening. But you see, like during the Second Republic, anything that is so serious that you wanted to discuss with Shagari, what do you say? Ina Akinloye. Akinloye was the national chairman. He was a powerful one at that. And that Second Republic, no matter they were overthrown, he still remains in some of his, two-thirds of his practice, the golden age of politics. But you see, we will invite the national chairman to say, how is this thing, how does this tally with the programs of NPM? And other parties like that. And when he won, he invited, there were 5 parties. He invited everybody that he wants to set a national unity government, even though he won, that he said he was going to rule. It was only UPN that said they don't want to be part of it. MPP was there, GNPP was there, NAP was there. Do you understand? So there has to be some kind of cohesion after every national election. And that's what we're not doing. And then the political parties have become so weak, they can't even do anything anymore. They can't discipline their members, and then...
So wait, what would the parties have done in this case now? Well, since the president is here now, yes. And if he's got policies and they're not coming through, is it that the political parties have a role to play here?
Of course. He was elected by the party. Of course, under the laws, people don't contest elections. It is parties that actually contest elections. There are plethora of cases up to Supreme Court that have said political parties contest election. And you contest election and you go and file an action.
So what can they do in this case?
At the tribunal and you don't put the name of the party, the case is over. You can't even go anywhere.
So what can they do that they're not doing?
That's what I'm saying. The parties have become so weak, they can't control. It's like most laws in Nigeria now. Laws have become so weak, they can't catch the strong, but they're always strong enough to catch the weak. So the way we are, the political parties, if they are strong, the programs you are running are supposed to be the programs and the ideologies of the party. But now, when people get into government, they use the paraphernalia of government to settle personal scores and dress them up as national issues. That is all of it. Bragging rights have become the order of the day. We did this. How does that solve the problem of the people? Which is the main reason why you're even in politics.
Do you think that as a result of this argument you've made, that yes. That parties are weak, is yes. why people are taking matters into their own hands? They realize that they cannot wait on political parties to help, raise an argument or counter whatever it is, or provide an alternative to what government is doing. Yes. Do you think that that's why there's now talk of a protest, at least perhaps to be able to hold government accountable?
Of course, that's what
do you agree, sir?
Because you see, the people have looked at government for so long. Solve our problem. Nigerians are long-suffering. Nigerians are very easy people to rule. But the thing is, when you consistently do negative things, it gets to a point where people will say, oh, what the heck? What do I even have to lose other than my hardship? So we have gotten to the point, they've looked at the political parties are not doing what they're supposed to do. The people in government are doing so much to weaken the parties. So it's a vicious cycle. So you have gotten to a point where government can't solve problems because parties cannot fraud them anymore.
I'm a little concerned that yes. you keep saying that, using the term, what do I have to lose?
Yes.
Because the idea behind protests is to gain something, is to change something. But if you keep saying, what do I have to lose? It's like as if what the people are planning is to unleash chaos.
You see, when you keep listening to people, when people talk, when you go around in the streets, people we don't have measures anymore. We don't have, okay, let's talk, let's dialogue. Everything leads to violence. You go to restaurants, you go to bars, you go to motor parks, you see it every day. People are angry, people are frustrated. And you see, the protest, yes, protest is supposed to bring the attention of government to some of these policies that are not good. That's the right thing. Yes, and that's what I guess people are also planning to do. But the point is, because of the rhetorics, people on both sides are concerned. You see, it's not as if people cannot protest. And it's not as if, of course, government is become jittery because they have, to an extent, done a whole lot of things that they feel is not right with the people. Okay, look at Kenya. By the time the man said, I will not assent to this, he had gone way too wrong. He has gone too far away. And the people have started, and then other people entered and hijacked it. So what we are praying and what we are saying, if there must be protests, yes, they have even said, we're not going to be violent. They're only saying this suffering is too much. And then where did it start from?
What data have said it?
No. I mean, you see them on social media, you read people, even on TV, you read them, say, don't shoot police, don't push police, don't do this, don't do that. Police don't shoot people. You must have been hearing that. So, you see, for me, because it's a crowd thing, some things may always go wrong. There are always people that are easily excited when they get into the crowd. But if protests are the normal way you do protests, people should protest and say, we do not like this policy A, policy B, policy C. It's not as if the government has not done something. There are things that are good that they are doing, but the point is, you have done one huge negative thing that makes all this pale into insignificance. That's the problem. That's where we are. And certain things must be done to pull the chestnut out of fire.
Let me say this. You asked a question. Yes, parties have a role to play, a huge role to play.
Thank you.
Political parties. We do, I think I remember having seen manifesto from various political parties what they intend to do to change the narratives. Because we are sitting on the keg of a gunpowder. There's starvation, there's hunger created by some of us. Nigerians, today, I buy fuel to fuel my vehicle, the smallest vehicle that's supposed to be 14,000 naira, is now 54,000 naira. So every Nigerian, including me, I'm receiving the pain. You can imagine some of my staff can't even come to work. They can't even afford to pay for transportation because of the mega salary they are receiving. Where they used to come from Nasarawa to right here, I go square now, that used to cost about 1,000, is about 4,000 to them. Somebody say, sir, we can't come to work. Nigerians are suffering. But who are the brave behind this? Who brought us to where we are? That's the question.
He's asking you who are they.
Exactly, but you won't say. You are dribbling us.
I'm not dribbling, but let me also tell you now.
Which ministries?
I just made you. I told you earlier, which we have discussed.
You haven't told me the name.
We have discussed this before, on this program, me and you. I said, look, the governor of Central Bank, hold on, the governor of Central Bank.
Who is going, current one or the former one?
The former one. He emptied the treasury of this country and bastardized the inflation.
That's an allegation, sir.
The case is in the courts, so we understand.
Okay, these are the problems that I'm having. The case is in the court, right? A man...
You don't like the case being in court?
Do you want to be settled outside?
Let me tell you something. The case is in the court does not stop you from talking about it. The case is in the court does not stop you from investigating the subject matter.
Okay, so
the case in the court does not stop you going to look. So I am happy.
What stops you from naming those ministries that you say you're not happy with now?
Okay, the one I have named, what have you done with it?
Which one have you named?
I told you the former governor of Central Bank.
He's before the court. He's in the court.
Do you know what he stole?
He's in the court, Honorable.
That is why we are where we are.
Where? Where are we?
Where are we?
You're
asking me where are we?
The president said, listen, I sought for this job. Yes. Don't pity me. So if party members...
Allowed him...
No, hold on.
Allowed him to solve the mess that he met.
If party members know that some ministries are not performing, and you're not telling him, how are you helping him?
Okay, he met...
Hold on.
How are you helping him?
Let me tell you this. I am telling you, I'm happy that some of your colleagues that used to be here, that used to interview me, to ask me, question me. Mr. Ajure is in the presidency. Linda, from here, is in the presidency now.
They are not the presidents.
Don't say that. They are not the president. They can tell you what the president is doing. But I'm not his spokesman, but I'm telling you.
You have seen some ministries that are not happy, they're not working.
Give Mr. President the opportunity. It takes time to repair.
Okay, so
destroy.
Let me take this, because you have said, just a minute, Mr. Honorable, and let me just quickly ask you, because one of the things you said is that our citizens must show loyalty, they must show participation, they must show commitment, which are some of the things that usually come out in a protest. A protest sometimes is something that is born out of loyalty, because the people who sometimes join a protest, some of them are okay. But, you know, to show that other people are really bearing the brunt of this, they say, look, this is our country. Sometimes...
I am not against protest.
Aha. So I just wanted to ask you...
Is that the question?
I want to ask you...
I have always been protesting. I'm protesting right now.
Do you think it is okay? Do you think it is okay for Nigerians to say that they want to come out and protest on the 1st of August? Is this something that you think is fine by citizens?
Everybody have the right to protest. I've always protested. And I'm also protesting right here. So it is how I came here. I didn't have any gun. I didn't have any cutlass. I didn't have anything. I came here to speak, to throw more light, to buttress my point. How I feel in this country. I am also feeling the pain. But somebody caused this pain upon us. It was not caused by Senator, His Excellency Bola Tinubu. It was not caused by him. This problem was caused by those... Listen,
your party was elected to solve the problem.
No, which party was in government before him?
Was he the president?
No, which party was in government?
No, was he the president?
That's why I was talking about parties. It is, what did he do as a party? He's the leader of the party, to start with. He's the leader of the party. Is he not?
Then?
Yes.
Then and now. He's the leader of the party. Has he ever said he's not the leader?
Do you...
What are we talking about?
You
see, in our inability, and like I keep saying, it's about bragging rights, it's about people doing wrong things, wrong attitude. When people are in government and they feel this is my own, you shouldn't talk. For goodness sake, you're dealing with the destiny of the whole country.
I think
and it's not his own private from
he's about to name the ministries. He wants to call a spade a spade.
Okay, let's wait. No, the names of the ministries.
Is that right?
Mr. Chamberlain.
Don't name the ministers. Name the ministries.
Just the ministries, if you don't want to name the names.
Mr. Chamberlain.
Which ministries?
Mr. Chamberlain, sincerely, let's call a spade a spade. This is serious. This is not a joke.
So which ministries?
Nigerians are suffering. Nigerians are feeling the pain.
We've heard you say that several times.
Now, and you are feeling the pain. I am feeling the pain. Mr. President is also feeling the pain. But now, let me tell you, you kept on asking me to name those.
You said some ministers are not doing
I said
the
some
job
ministers,
for the
some ministry are not doing what they ought to do.
And we said which ones?
And who appointed them?
Who appointed which ones?
Just wait.
Did they become ministers?
Wait and let's see what the president will do. Give me the opportunity. I will be the one to come here to tell you. Let me tell you, I'm very patient.
I hope the party members tell the president the truth.
No. Listen to me.
I hope they tell him the real truth of what's going on.
I'm saying it today, without fear of favor. I respect people. I don't fear anybody. You know what I'm saying? This country belongs to all of us. But I'm telling you, what you have forgotten is that everybody wants to throw stone at Mr. President. I have said this. What about the governors?
That's not true.
It's not about throwing stones.
Have you discussed anything about governors as you have been here?
The thing about it is this.
Who has not destroyed this country?
Just hang on a minute.
Is it Mr. President?
If the president has policies in place, if government keeps coming up with policies, and then it turns out that those policies are not carried out, they're not executed, they're not implemented, you have to find a way. Because if they keep saying, look, our policies are good, but the result out there is not the result that they want, there must be a missing link.
What went wrong?
So that's what we're asking. So what could have happened? Who is not doing what they should have been doing? That's what we're asking you. Which ministry? So he will know and have a zero-in look and say, listen, what's going on here? Why is this not happening? That's what we're asking.
I will join you.
By telling us the names?
I will join you to conduct what I call investigative journalism. I want you to be part of this, not just hearing from me. But when you are asking me, you want me to name the ministry. You want me to name the ministry.
What is wrong with the name of the ministries? They were appointed by the president.
And they're public officers
They're public officers. There's no big deal about any ministry.
Said, Mr. President gave palliative to 36 states in this country, including FCT, Abuja, to succumb. What happened?
How do you run an economy based on palliatives? What are we talking about?
Tell us what happened. Because I'm just saying on the front
some of the governors, some of the states, have you seen them sharing anything?
Yes, because some of them are saying...
So do you blame Mr. President
Just a moment. This is the leadership newspapers. It says, federal government palliatives, 1 week after, 21 states await truckloads of grains.
There we go. What I do?
So they await.
Yes.
As
in other words, they haven't seen it.
No,
this is... I want to believe that this is journalism. I mean, journalism produces the papers.
Is that from federal government? Who is writing down? Is that from federal government? That statement coming from federal government?
This is the front page of a daily.
Listen to me.
Honorable.
Let me tell you. I'm also a journalist. I said, is that from federal government report? Or is that those who want to be one of the saboteurs that want to put the government in bad light?
Playing game is that it can't work. You see, blaming people for your inefficiency...
Yeah, you have to blame people.
No, for your inefficiency is not right.
You are blaming the president for being...
As a leader, have they provided security and people are not going to farm? You're talking about food being costly.
So
food is costly.
He has not provided security.
Of course.
He has not.
So he's just sitting there. The security of the country... He's just sitting there. Honorable, you're a good man. I know you. You see, you're good. I know you, but you are in the wrong place. You're in the wrong association, in the wrong group. You see, what is happening is that people cannot go to farm. That's why there is no grain. When people were going to farm and producing food, the cost of food was down. You see, it is the job of government to provide security. If all of us decide to carry arms everywhere, you have private army. I mean, it's not going to go well for the country. That's why the primary role of government is providing security.
Do you think
and that is where things are wrong by
destroying this country?
And as we are not providing security, you remove the subsidy and the cost of fuel is high. Then how will food become cheap?
Listen,
these are very simple things. As you're removing that, you are saying, okay, dollar should be 1,500 or it should be 1 million naira. I mean, what are we talking about?
Do you think
this is dollar that was 30 kobo at the time? 30 kobo. I'm not saying 30 naira. I know when dollar was 30 kobo. Even up to 1980, how much was it? $1, 1 naira could buy you one naira could buy you $2.
I remember.
And people were producing. You see, by the time you cannot feed yourself, everything about your economy is on a tailspin. And I said it before, and I'll say it again. Any society that cannot protect and provide for the poor, that are many, can never protect the rich that are few.
It's easy to be said and to be done.
No.
We can come here and say all this.
No. You see,
you have not been in government. You as a businessman.
How many policemen do we have in the country? Honorable. Do we have up to 600,000 policemen? How do you provide security in a country of 200 million people with less than 1 million policemen? And most of them are involved in VIP protection. So how do you provide that security? How many soldiers do we have? People are shouting professionalism. You join those that are shouting professionalism instead of using what you have, which is human resources, and produce like 2 million soldiers and pay them well. There is money to do that. You don't do that. We have less than 300,000 soldiers. You think other people are not seeing our security architecture? It is all there. It is not about continuing. It's about the things we are not doing right.
Yes.
We should do things right. And not to blame people for putting it out.
I'm not speaking for, I'm not their spokesman, but I must say this.
It's your party. It's your party.
We have a country.
And your party
Nigeria.
is failing. That's the point.
That country,
you should tell the president that
we must guard this country jealously.
Of course, we
have no other country.
Yes, we
if
are.
we destroy this country,
that is why we are here. Nobody is going to destroy the country.
Hold on. But the
kind of those that are in government are trying to do it.
I am talking for the way forward. How to bring everybody together.
Are they doing that? How many times have you called a meeting of political parties? Even your party. Have you called a meeting of your colleagues to discuss the affairs of Nigeria?
We need to anchor at that point.
What are we talking about? These are not doing the right thing. Tell the president these are the things that are happening.
All right, Chief, we need to anchor at that point. Gosin, former presidential candidate of UDP, and Honorable Ehiozowa Agbonaima is a Federal Commissioner, Code of Conduct Bureau, also former member, House of Reps. Thank you both for coming on this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Business Morning on Sunrise Daily comes up now.
Always difficult to end the conversation on Sunrise Daily. But good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We do business. Today, we do the normal business for just about 30 minutes, not like yesterday. We start from the global space as usual. Oil prices steadied on Tuesday after falling for the past 2 sessions as investors remain cautious amid expectations of plentiful supplies and weak demand while brushing off the United States presidential campaign upheaval. We'll give a closer look at the numbers now, and looking at it, we see it's green for one of the markets, one of those unusual times when we see an inverse relationship between the two markets. So Brent went up 0.04% at $82.42 a barrel. WTI dropped 0.05% at $78.38 a barrel. And yes, President Joe Biden, well, according to traders, they mostly ignored President Joe Biden's decision to call off his re-election bid and endorse Vice President Kamala Harris. Instead, the market is focused on fundamentals, which Morgan Stanley analysts say were likely to balance out by the fourth quarter and rise to a supply surplus by next year and would drag down Brent prices to mid or high 70s per barrel. That's for Morgan for next year. Now we see the Naira, and we saw that appreciation. Thank goodness. Well, the CBN, of course, intervened again. We've seen our reserve increase to a 16-month high by the end of last week. So the CBN has the power to intervene. So there was an intervention again yesterday, and then the Naira gained a whole lot, more than 6%. To close at 1,500 naira 32 kobo after it opened at 1,596 naira 92 kobo. NAFEX closed at 1,564 naira 54 kobo. It's gained slightly, well, not slightly, almost 1%, 0.90%. There's expectation of more intervention by the central bank. And talking about the central bank, we do know that today is decision day. So 1 p.m. studios will open. It will be a special Business Incorporated edition today. The meeting for the MPC started yesterday, decision today, and we'll hook on live to hear the announcement, or also analyze some of those decisions pre and post the decision. So you want to join us by then. And I'm sure, of course, the Naira is a major determinant. Inflation is also, remember the inflation number that came out last week. So we'll look forward to that. Another thing that has been in the news, which we're going to still discuss today, and we had a lengthy conversation on yesterday, is the issue of petroleum product availability, quality in the country. Well, the lower house of the chamber, they're also concerned about it. I remember that the lawmakers over the weekend went to Dangote Refinery and did some checks there. That was the basis of our conversation yesterday. Well, after that yesterday, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, is asking the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, as well as the Standards Organization of Nigeria, to guarantee that PMS, petrol imported into the country, is rigorously tested in laboratories to meet standard sulfur and octane levels. Talking about the quality of petroleum products in circulation in Nigeria.
Unavailability of crude oil feedstock for our downstream domestic refineries are of particular concern. The Nigerian Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA, and the Standard Organizations of Nigeria, SON, must guarantee that all petrol imported into the country is rigorously tested in laboratories to meet the standard sulfur and octane levels.
So there you have it. It's becoming a growing concern for the lawmakers, for Nigerians. I mean, we had one of the officials of Dangote on the program yesterday, and he did cite something to say, why do you think that generators are not lasting as long as they should? Perhaps it's because of the quality of the petroleum product that is fed into it. But let's discuss more with Dr. Wisdom Enang. Dr. Wisdom Enang is an oil and gas expert, and he joins us right here in the studio. Dr. Enang, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
So it's becoming a common conversation now. It first started with NMDPRA accusing Dangote of supplying substandard products. And then on Sunday, the lawmakers got samples of products, petroleum products, on their way to Dangote Refinery. When they got there, they did a test, and they saw that the sulfur content was even higher than, you know, what Dangote has, which is not supposed to be. Because I want to believe that these products are supposed to be tested before they get into Nigeria for use. And they also talked about flashpoint, which is supposed to be low, I believe, you know, but we saw higher ones. So maybe you should help us understand the regulatory process to be sure that perhaps there's no weak point somewhere there.
All right, thank you very much. Typically, we find that imported products would have first the test done abroad, and then when they come in here, they're being tested again. But, you know, part of the weakness that we do have is two things. The independence of the test itself, because you have a regulator, but before you can ascertain that, you know, you've got that comfort in terms of the test results, you need to own that test. And once it's a third-party test, then you cannot take ownership of the test. The other thing is how comprehensive is the test itself. I'll take your mind back to January, February 2022, when we had the high levels of methanol in our, you know, fuel. And what happened is we had different parameters that we do test for, but methanol content wasn't one of them. And that way we had some group of companies take advantage of that gap and then bring in fuel that was quite high in methanol content. A number of people, including myself, did suffer engine breakdown as a result. So when we look at the regulatory side of things, it's not just the standards, it's also the enforcement of things. How confident are we in the enforcement? And with that comes, when you take ownership of the enforcement, you take ownership of the testing, it does allow you some position to be able to do some research and development. It does allow you to be able to, study what's going on in the country, what do we need to add. For example, if we had one, back in 2022, we could have known that methanol, excess methanol was something to look out for. And so this would have been something to actually engineer into our test process. So the regulators are there, but just having the standards is not going to cut it. I think we need to own the test process itself and make sure that the other thing is the human factor. Because I tell people, for anything to work, you have the equipment, you have the processes, and then you have the human factor that drives the equipment and the processes. So you need to make sure that the people that are supposed to do their work actually do the work. Because, there's also a possibility of allowing these products come through and then the results are all made up. There's also that possibility. We couldn't, write it off. So these are some of the concerns. Conspiracy, another major concern of that we end up having, products with very high level of impurities coming to Nigeria.
So I think you've mentioned like 3 or 4 points, but I'll start from where has been touched before, a point that has been touched before, which is the issue of the regulators having their laboratories. I think that could be a worrying factor, because is it so huge, expensive? Because if you're depending on a third party for your result, anything could go wrong in the chain.
Absolutely, and you're right. Anything could go wrong, and it is important for us to understand that petroleum is not just something we discovered just yesterday. It's been around for a number of years, and so these are things that we should have actually planned for, knowing that, of course, we had in mind to develop our downstream ultimately. So these are all, things that we had to plan for. The regulators, I don't know why they haven't been able to set up their labs as of the moment. And I think, even if you're using third parties, right, I think there needs to be a chain of checks and counter checks and surveillance checks to make sure that, that whole process, you have this confidence. I think there are reputable companies that actually do these tests. And, there's no problem with getting 2 or 3 and putting them in place and putting arrangements in place to make sure that those tests does happen. Because ultimately, when everything slips through the cracks, right, people tend to turn away from the technical side of things and tend to lean on the conspiracy theories that, okay, look, there's no way this could have passed through. But there's actually a way. If you don't own this test, you don't know what's going on, and you don't take it as part of your innovation process, because at the end of this innovation, you're looking at what concerns Nigeria, look at the peculiarity of the fuel imported into Nigeria, and you're looking at what to look out for. You're looking at those blind spots. Those are definitely things to look out for. So, the regulator really should, rise to the occasion and start building their own state-of-the-art facility. That's the only way they can assure Nigerians that they're actually doing the testing that needs to be done.
And I think the other worrying factor is the human factor, which we know it's like the beginning and the end, because even if you had a state-of-the-art facility and all of that, you still need humans to handle that. And even if we were using a third party, for that, if we had the right human beings with the right orientation,
absolutely,
I guess we would still not have a problem. But I think that's the human resources is the most difficult to manage.
It is the most difficult, but it's something that, I tell you what, you look at the IOCs, for example, right? They're using the same talent pool from the same Nigerians, but they run it in such a way that there's a very high level of discipline, and I'm using them as a classical example. I know some Nigerian companies also run their processes that way, but there should be a way of checking that human element, starting from, who are these people, what values do they stand for before you get them into positions, what are their antecedents. Those are things to look out for. It's a sort of an opaque indication of who they would be on the job anyway, but at least that's a starting point. But the thing is, when you throw competence out of the window, when you put in some sort of sentiments, and then when you look at other factors away from actually what value that person is bringing to the table, that's usually the problem. And that's the red flag that starts up and then people ignore it, and all the way to when there's now a compromise that extends to the equipment and the processes, because the humans control this. So there are some red flags to look out for when putting people in those positions.
So I wonder if it's the issue of competence, because this same personnel, as you said, when they work with the IOCs, it's better, or if they're employed or they go outside the country, the attitude and everything changes. Perhaps it is the issue of consequences for actions.
Correct.
Perhaps that is what we should work on.
Correct. So I like to use the CSE model when I talk about these things. There's the causes, there's the actions, and the consequences, right? When you create a gap in terms of competency, when you create a gap in your organizational value system, then there's bound to be the exploitation from the staff. It's a normal human attitude to go through the path of least resistance. And once that happens, you find out that, okay, there's going to be a compromise on the entire standards. There's going to be a compromise on the service delivery. And then, of course, the consequences are far-reaching because, when you talk about things like emissions, we're talking about people damaging their vehicles. None of these are covered under insurance, by the way. And they were talking about people being exposed to, some sort of health risk. And none of these are things that really helpful to the human body. So I think ultimately the human factor, we need to have a mindset change. The organizational culture helps people to, reshape their mindset. And also, consequences is very important. And I say this, for example, if people see that people, even at the top, don't get away with things, it would automatically shape their discipline. But once you find out that you're in a parastatal, for example, things go on and no one is being punished for it, or no punitive actions or correctional actions are taken against people, then there's that chance that people just feel like there's nothing that's going to happen. The worst case that's going to happen, I'll be cautioned, or nothing at all is going to happen. There are no consequences. So these are all things that I think the regulators need to put in place, because ultimately, if we do not do it for ourselves as Nigerians, no one is going to do it for us. And it's sending a very wrong signal. The back and forth is sending a very wrong signal to the international community on our ability to cater for our own institution, for example, the Dangote, and for our ability to actually watch over ourselves in terms of the standard of products that we do accept into the country.
And isn't it funny that all of this started because the NMDPRA was alleging that the products from, at least the diesel from Dangote, is substandard, and then the lawmakers decided to do a test and discover that even the ones imported into the country has even more impurities than the accusation laid on Dangote. Does that give a kind of sentiment around the Dangote refinery? I thought it was for the good of the whole country.
The thing is, the Dangote refinery, it's sacrosanct that it's for the good of the country. And I think there was a timeline mismatch between what the NMDPRA was trying to say and the reality. So I'll take us back to March 2024. Before then, we had the standards 1,000 ppm for petrol and 3,000 ppm for diesel, right? And it was reviewed at that point that, okay, going forward, that all products should go 200 ppm and below, all petroleum products imported into Nigeria. So a couple of months ago. Now, when the Dangote refinery started up, it was going between 600 to 650. But this was before these regulations anyways. And then once you drop that ppm, the Dangote refinery is now doing, below around 70 at the moment. So the truth is, I don't think the NNDPRA chief had caught up with some of the recent developments, because of course you started with 600 or 650, but then there's that drive towards reducing your ppm limits. And I don't think it was updated on that, but I think that has even opened up a more important thing to see that there are structural issues with the regulator itself being able to have his own independent lab, structural issues with how do we, despite all the standards, do we still allow substandard products to come in? We could say, well, the methanol one, there was a lack of comprehensiveness of the test, constituents that we're looking out for. But we still have fuel that has the same elements that we're looking out for, same constituents, but they're obviously in odds of about 4 or 5 times higher than the allowed limit. How exactly is this happening? So this has opened up a more interesting conversation just beyond just looking at one particular person or one particular company for in this case.
Indeed, indeed. And I mean, we're happy there was a meeting yesterday, Dangote, NNPCL, and even I think the president was there. So we do hope that will bring succor, because, I mean, as you said, what message are we sending to international investors if, as one of the officials said, a regulator is belittling, a product coming from the country? But on the other hand, now, how do we move forward? The lawmakers have said there's going to be an investigation on the substandard products, petroleum products in the country, but we already have a chain, a structure that is supposed to take care of it. But how do we ensure that we're not just going around with circular, or just having an interesting conversation, afterwards we are back to what we used to be?
Yeah, I think a number of things I would like to advise. When we're looking at doing this sort of inquiry, right, I think there's need to name and shame, really. I think that's the way to go. The lawmakers, when we see the corporates, let's say as it is, let's say who they are, and let's say how they were able to get these products in. That's the first thing, because that sends a signal to the people that are perpetuating these activities that it is not acceptable. The second thing is, what are we going to do in the short term? Are we going to have a chain of different global labs come in and do the work for us? And how are we going to ensure that they're doing the right thing, whether in the sort of test that they're performing, or how well they are able to ensure that all products that come into the country do not evade their range of capture, that they're able to capture these products and then test them accordingly. And then in the long term, how are we going to build our own labs? How are we going to run them? Are we going to run it the NNPC, or are we going to run it under the regulator? Or is it going to be a separate firm altogether? What are we going to do? So there's going to be that conversation starting from the short term, taking our punitive actions, medium term, making sure that we look at who exactly and the expertise of the people that are doing the tests for us, and then the long term, looking at how we can build our own facilities.
Yeah, well, we do hope we start that journey early enough, because, I mean, going by everything that's been said, cars and equipment, generators are getting the reduced lifespan because of all of these impurities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Wisdom Enang, for your time this morning.
Thank you. Deeply appreciate it.
All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, it's MPC decision day. I know inflation is still surging, so I don't think there's any hope of a cut in interest rates, even though the CBN governor had promised that soon we will see that. But how soon? Let's take a break. We'll have that conversation afterwards. Welcome back. It's still Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. And yes, it's MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee meeting is started yesterday. Decision day is today. And we're going to bring that live at 1 p.m. That's the period we do have Business Incorporated. But let's just see if we have a little fly on the wall, where the meeting is going on, to give us a bit of tip into what to expect. And we have joining us to perhaps give us a tip is Mr. Ayode Jebo. He's the Managing Director of Optimus by AfriInvest. Mr. Ebo, thank you so much. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's great to be here.
Great. So, I mean, I don't think we should expect any cuts. I guess we should be asking, how many basis points increase should we expect at this time?
Okay, thanks. I think you are right. Relative to what we are seeing in developed economies, we saw China cut rate yesterday. But we feel that given the continued elevated inflation, a bit of volatility within the FX market, so the CBN's MPC will still be looking for a way to make interest rates a bit more attractive. So for us, we're looking at between 50 to 100 basis points increase. That's from the 26.25% at the last meeting. You recall the last meeting, it was raised by 150 basis points. That's 1.5% to 26.25. So we feel that given the continued pressure on inflation rates, the MPC will still want to do additional raise so that they continue to build on what would say some of the gains that they've seen so far.
So would you say Mr. Cardoso spoke too soon? That was, I think, about 2 weeks now when he said interest rate will begin to drop soon.
Yeah, so I think maybe depending on the variables that he was looking at, but you will even see at the even last auction, primary market, treasury bills primary market auction, we also saw the 1-year rate move up higher, closed at 21.5%, which when you translate that, that's the yield of almost over 6%. So, and even for home rate too, the rate too has also been around that level. So I think that the CBN would want to keep that. Yeah, while we believe that for us, the rate at which the FPI, so when you look at the Q1 capital importation data, there was significant surge in capital importation. That's about $2.1 billion that came in within that quarter, out of the total $3.4 billion. But and that we think that will dwindle because then there was even the arbitrage opportunity for the foreign portfolio investors in terms of appreciation of the naira. And now from what we're hearing, some of them are even trying to sell down and exit the market. So the CBN or the MPC, that's the Monetary Policy Committee, will see all what they can do to see how to make it a bit attractive for foreign portfolio investors. I know some would say we shouldn't focus too much on foreign portfolio investors, but to attract foreign direct investment has to do more with the business environment, and that is why what we got was just a meager less than $200 million in first quarter, given what is currently happening within the economy.
Yeah, but you know that even making the instruments attractive will also have to be balanced with debt servicing. Our debt has gone beyond the 50%, talking about GDP to debt.
Yes, I get you, and your argument is correct. But the challenge we have is the debt is not being channeled into productive areas. So you look at it like a company. If I'm borrowing today, if I'm going to invest that borrowing into areas where I would earn higher return, I really don't have a problem because I'm able to generate cash flow to pay back. But the challenge we're having is that most of these funds are not used for productive things that will generate income in the future. So, and as a result, it will continue, that debt burden will continue to have more impact on the revenue. So that point, yes, you are correct. But I feel that what we need to do, I won't say we should stop borrowing. We just now need to be deliberate. Can we carve out, for instance, project bonds? Like the way we do the Sukuk bond, let's tie it to projects and partner with private sector to work on some of these projects, given the continued constraints and resources of the government.
All right, Mr. Ebo. We'll see how we'll push such conversation. Thank you so much, Managing Director of Optimus by AfriInvest, Mr. Ayo Dijebo.
Thank you for having me.
So more of that conversation at 1 p.m. when we'll have a Business Incorporated special, and then we'll go into the studio, into the headquarters, CBN headquarters live to get the announcements. Meanwhile, just a little bit of the numbers from yesterday, closing numbers from yesterday. The NGX is back to the 100,000 level, 100,568.60. It went up slightly, 0.03%, but good enough for us. We gained 17 billion naira on the market cap at 56.59. Well, you can tell that banking is still doing very well. It went up. That's the banking counter was positive yesterday, almost 0.5%, 0.45%. There you have it. Others are suffering for it. But this is where attention is at this time. Insurance, green, red, oil and gas slightly down. That is very marginal. Consumer also slightly down. Top trades were LLX, Universal Insurance, and UCAP, the penny stocks. Oh, they say they are bigger than the penny stocks now. So, but anyways, 1 p.m. today, it's special. So it's not going to be the normal Business Incorporated. It's going to be the MPC decision day. But do join us then, and we'll take you around the world of MPC and interest rates, and we'll have great conversations. By God's grace, do join us 1 p.m. I'll see you then. I'm in John McCall. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily studio.
It is a crude oil controversy. That's what we're talking about this morning. And we're joined by Dr. Nameka Obiari, who is a development economist. He's also an investment banking executive. He joins us from our studios in Lagos. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so a lot is going on, and part of which you've not just been on the sidelines, you also, at least, you've weighed in at different points in time on this one. But one of the most recent development happens to be the one that happened yesterday with the Minister of State for Oil. He's had several meetings. But first, before we get into that bit, let's hear your thoughts on how all of this drama has been playing out for a while now, as a matter of fact.
Chamberlain, I'm very excited that the Minister for State for Oil and Gas, Henneken Lokbobiri, has actually stepped in to stem the tide and to, calm nerves, which is what is expected of him in a very important sector like the oil and gas sector that accounts for 75 to 85% of our foreign exchange earning. And Chamberlain, you will recall, this oil and gas sector is a very important sector. Dangote is a very important player in this industry. The downstream sector is over $50 billion sized, and it contributes over 1 million jobs in the Nigerian economy. And the skirmishes between the NDPRA and the Dangote is very unfortunate. And Chamberlain is also dovetails to the issue that we have been having in the industry over the last 9 years. Remember, all over the world, regulators are supposed to assist and to enhance business environment and business development. What is happening to Dangote is not new. You remember, I recall watching your session when you asked the Minister for State for Petroleum Resources to intervene in a matter that had been happening in the Warren North oil and gas ecosystem, where 4 depots valued at over $50 million that has over 3,000 jobs in that ecosystem have been jeopardized since January 2024. That's depot, one Taros oil and gas depot and jetty, Dam Marina, Sayas, and one of the biggest export depots in Nigeria, Green Mark. Last year, Nigeria did over $790 million export. That depot, Green Mark, accounted for a significant portion because most of the oil refineries, the Niger Delta, stores most of their byproduct and export through that depot. That depot had been locked for over 7 months, going to 8 months, by NNDPRA for no just cause. You remember you've intervened. You even asked the Minister for State to intervene in the matter. He promised you he will get back. 2 months after, he had not gotten back to you. And it's very interesting, Chamberlain. This is an ecosystem that is supposed to even create jobs, add so much to this economy, that has over 120 to 150 million liters of PMS that's supposed to be coming into the system. And what is the issue? NNPC brought a product to a depot. And I give you a illustration, generally. It's like somebody goes to a warehouse and say, okay, I'm hiring your warehouse, Mr. A. I am bringing 20,000 bags of rice to come and store in your warehouse. They must say, okay, no problem. The man tells his managers, make sure you receive this thing and count it and store it. The trailer that was loaded to come and bring the rice, first of all, in one of the stores, accounted for 7,000 bags. They checked it, quality, quantity, okay. Now, to the next storeroom, they dropped almost about 9,000 bags of rice. And they claimed it was 13. The people said, no, what we saw is 9,000. And in the course of checking for that rice, they discovered that even what they bought was bag of sand instead of rice. And the owners of the store, which is their job is just to store, called the man who hired the truck. See, they are supposed to bring rice to our store. They only brought sand. Please intervene. This is what, and they arrested the truck. Rather than clap for them, promote them, even give them national award, that warehouse was locked down. Other warehouses within that business have been locked down. For 7 months, jobs have been lost. Over 13 billion naira investments lost, income lost in that sector. And the same thing Dangote is facing, you know. And, you know, it's very shocking that in this economy, the biggest investment in that sector is supposed to alleviate our problems are not being attended to. So, and I am very happy that Heneki Lokbobiri, a very good man, has intervened. And I also want him to use, in the same vein, just like he promised you, to intervene in the issue at the cocoa area in Niger Delta and ensure that those depots are opened immediately so that Nigeria does not continue to lose money, lose investment. We need to encourage investors. Over 128 billion naira investment in that area have been jeopardized because of no issue with the owners of the place, but because of issues with regulation that are supposed to enhance business that are not enhancing business.
So, Dr. Biareri, so tell us, I mean, you know, as much as people are optimistic that the Minister of State for Oil has waded into this matter, but there are some historical perspectives that may dampen certain psychological makeup if they refer to it. Because, for instance, the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Reps in this case, have set up a committee, an ad hoc one, I think, to investigate the substantive proper products with good quality coming to this country. But we all know, in this same country, not even long ago, how very bad fuel cane was brought into this country. They set up committees to look into all of those. Here we are. Has anybody seen the results of any of those things? So how can we tell? Do we hold our breath to expect that, well, maybe because this involves Dangote, that things will go right, it will be sorted, they will reach an agreement?
I think Mr. President needs to step in here. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Mr. President needs to step in here because sometimes I feel that, you know, you cannot be sabotaging the regulators cannot be sabotaging Mr. President because that is, it's practically seems the fact that they are sabotaging Mr. President. Chamberlain, I give you, see, you remember, you know, and I must commend channels. Channels have been at the forefront of raising this issue. Dangote is a very important refinery in Nigeria. And what are we talking about here? Nigeria used to do 2.5 million barrels a day. If we are doing 2.5 million barrels a day, we won't have issues of giving him crude to refine and sell to Nigerian market. I won't have issue meeting our 1.78 million barrels a day OPEC quota. Mr. President needs to step in, not just to solve the Dangote issue, but to solve the issue in Warri North, the Ora Cocoa ecosystem. Chamberlain, the Taros Depot, the Taros Jetty, Green Mark, Sayas, Damarina, and the whole ecosystem had been shut down since January. You know, sometimes I begin to ask myself, those are the NDPRA. What is their motive? What is their objective? Are they deliberately sabotaging President Tinubu or what? And I must comment, I must tell you this. Mr. President is not omnipresent, is not omniscient. Chamberlain, I sit on the board of an agro business, one of the biggest agro back in the Southeast. And Chamberlain, even in my own little corner, I've been had the worst privilege of hiring people that misappropriated our funds. If I, at this little corner, a forensic investigator over 23 years standing can make a mistake in terms of hiring, Mr. President that oversees 1,300 MDAs across 774 local government areas is not omniscient, is not omnipresent, and we need to help him. And that is why, like I said, the current Minister for State for Petroleum Resources should step in. NNDPRA reports to Henneke Lokbobiri. He needs to put his feet on the ground and protect Mr. President. Those depots in the Niger Delta needs to be opened immediately, from Taros to Sayas to Damoina, because it is a case of destroying a business for no just cause. Every industry expert, even those who understand the market, tells you these depots are blameless, and that is the truth. And therefore, Dangote, we need to support Dangote. The only thing I disagree is the issue of monopoly. We should not have anybody to have monopoly in this industry. I'll give you an example. Niger has a refinery that does almost 2 times their domestic consumption in terms of production. Yet the market is fully regulated. They don't ban anything import. But if we support Dangote by giving him crude, even at competitive market price, he will be able to refine and create jobs here. I think Mr. President needs to step in, and we need to help him. I'm a Christian. Proverbs 25 verse 5 simply says, if you remove the wicked from round about the king, his throne will be established in justice. I want to believe strongly. Mr. Tinubu, President, means so well. He has a plan to do $1 trillion economy in the next 5 years. And Nigeria takes the right process for this to be built. Wale Kadoso, Wale Edun, Yemi Kadoso, and those who are in his inner kitchen cabinet should also step in to help him. Dangote should be supported. Those depots have been locked for over the last 7 months. Over 20 billion naira lost in that ecosystem should be opened immediately. I have never seen this kind of thing. If we have poverty in Nigeria, over 197 million Nigerians live under poverty. Mr. President should not be held entirely responsible. Over 20 million kids are out of school. These are the job of local government and the states. And we must learn to situate the problems correctly. The Minister for State that intervened, National Assembly should also step in. I expect Akpabio and the House Committee, Senate Committee on downstream and upstream to also wade in. It's not enough to just hold this kind of meeting and do photo shot. Nigerians, if the richest man in Africa can be wailing like this, then imagine what the 4 depots in cocoa are suffering. And the Chamberlain, beyond channels, I also expect the other stations, Arise, AIT, and New Central to also step in. Chamberlain, I must commend you, and you people have done a good job in bringing to the attention of Mr. President the issues in that worry not oil and gas ecosystem. You should also take it the next notch. The Honorable Minister told you he wasn't aware. You guys should also keep on calling him to remind him that that ecosystem had been shut down. 3,000 jobs lost. Mr. President may not know everything, and we need to help him. It's our job as honest Nigerians, patriotic Nigerians, to keep on bringing it to the fore, to bringing it to the front burner for us to resolve this matter. Honestly speaking, sometimes I got weary of coming to talk on TV stations, and I want to believe that within this week, the Honorable Minister for State for Oil and Gas should step in and open that cocoa oil and gas sector, so that we don't keep on creating poverty and unemployment in Nigeria, while everybody blame Mr. President, who may not be aware of what is happening.
You have called on several persons to step in and help the president. So you equally, we all also have to step in and help the country by consistently pointing out whatever we think is going on wrong, wherever we see it. If we see something, we have to say something, because there are several people who can't speak for themselves. So if you can, you'll do so, because you just might save lots and lots of lives. Speaking about this crude oil controversy, so do you think that at the heart of this matter is the quest to stop importation exporting our crude and importing the products, bringing it back to this country? Do you think that there seems to be, because there are those who think some persons don't want that to stop, and so they will do whatever they think is possible to make sure that keeps happening? Could there be any credence, any truth to whatsoever, to that particular narrative?
Berlin, I want to align with that school of thought, and I'll give you an example. Nigeria today has a crude component of 445,000 barrels that were earmarked for the 3 refineries that are not yet working. What stopped the NNPC, rather than doing this opaque DSP thing, to say, okay, to Dangote. Dangote has a refinery that can do 650,000 barrels a day. Okay, we're going to allocate that for 445,000 barrels to you. But it's going to be under a special concession arrangement. Cost plus a margin of 30%. You can source for the remaining 205,000 barrels from elsewhere. But these 445,000 barrels we are given to you, we want to boost productivity in the economy. What do? Cost of refining is cost of crude production is about $31 max. Cost of refining a barrel is about $10. Okay, you're not going to add more than 30% margin on it. If you do it based on the current exchange rate, it will give you about 503 naira per liter. If you look at the barrel of about 59 liters in a barrel of white petroleum product and other byproducts. Now, you appoint something like an embed in the oil and gas sector with all the IPMAN, DAPMAN, and MOMAN as part of it. What it simply means that the 445,000 barrels we are going to give Dangote, the product will be sold in Nigeria. Whatever he sells outside, he can export. You give him at the market, you give him at a concessionary rate. $31 per barrel cost of production. You can even add $10 and then add his margin, $53.33. By the time you do it, Nigeria will buy petroleum product, GPK, PMS, HU, anywhere in Nigeria at a cost of not more than $700 per liter, even if the marketers and those in the whole eco-value system add 24% on top of it. It makes it easy for Nigeria. It becomes transparent. Dangote produces what we consume here and then export to the rest of West Africa. If you don't want even to give it to Dangote, you can also look at Bua is building. Edo Refinery is there. They are expanding by 30,000 barrels a day. Now Delta Refinery is there. You can extend the same thing to Watersmith and all the rest of them. Basically, Nigeria can do 2.53 million barrels a day. The question we should be asking ourselves, why are we not producing 2.5 million barrels a day? Why are we not even doing 3 million barrels a day when we have the capacity? We have even, if you look at the CBN records, as at August 2010, we did 2.8 million barrels a day. We can replicate this. It's no skyrocket science. The issue should be, what do we do to ramp up crude oil output? Be able to give Dangote and every other person and make this country a productive hub. And beyond even that, how do we protect the ecosystem? How do we ensure that people, I give you example, 4 depots invested over 128 billion.
If I may interrupt you.
One of the things I do with my team is to do sectoral analysis of Nigeria from oil and gas sector, agri, to see how we can contribute our intellectual input to economic development. And I find this so preposterous that 4 depots that were built with over 128 billion naira by investors, local investors, had been shut down for 7 months by NNDPRA and NNPC. And nobody's talking about it. And we expect foreign direct investors to come in, even with lamentation of Dangote.
So if I may come in here, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I just want to confirm that you can hear me.
I can hear you, Mokbe.
Okay, fantastic. Well, because it will seem that over and over you keep going back to the issue in cocoa, which we will not let up on. I mean, we certainly will get to the bottom of what exactly has happened with the depots in cocoa. But I think it's important that we separate the issues. What has come to the fore right now is this, controversy between Alhaji Aliko Dangote and also the regulator, the new regulator on the block, which also is supposed to regulate the NNPC, because sometimes it seems they're lumped together, is the NMDPRA. And it was the NMDPRA, is it DG he's called now? I can't remember the position, the very top position there, but let's just say DG. Is the one whose statement has actually caused all of this ruckus, talking about how Dangote's refinery is only at 45% complete. They haven't granted a license to operate, etc., etc. And he also spoke about importation. What exactly do you think is the bone of contention? Because before now, what we had heard was that it was difficult for Dangote to be able to, Dangote refinery to be able to get crude oil locally. But what do you think right now? Because somehow they have been able to import the crude oil and they're, getting supplies somewhat. We also saw before now some supplies, on the high seas to the Dangote refinery, which was able to get it started. What do you really think the bone of contention is? Because the NMDPRA DG spoke to monopoly. That was what he spoke to, that we cannot allow one person be the one to supply. That will not be good for the country. And you have also made reference to it. So what do you think is the real bone of contention here that has necessitated the intervention of the Minister of State for Petroleum?
Okay. Dangote Refinery was commissioned March 2023 by President Muhammadu Buhari. Dangote Refinery started production February 2024. And Dangote Refinery had been selling HGO in the Nigerian market for the past 6 months. For the CEO of NNDPRA to come out to boldly state with such impunity that Dangote's refinery had not been licensed to produce any product, whereas Dangote had been producing since February and market had been buying it. In Senate climes, the Minister for State for Petroleum will have requested for the CEO of NMD to hand in his resignation letter forthwith and immediately. There is no skyrocket science here about it. By law, the NNDPRA is supposed to have station managers in every petroleum depot in Nigeria, even in Dangote Refinery. That ensures that Dangote Refinery wouldn't have been able to ship out 1 liter of petroleum product if there was no approval by NNDPRA mandate officers at Dangote Refinery. For a refinery that had been producing since February, selling to Nigerian market, and for somebody to wake up in July and announce boldly that that refinery have not been licensed to produce when they have been producing and selling, is a self-indictment. In Senate climes, in things where things work properly. Rather than calling a meeting where everybody sit down together, the Minister for State, the meeting he will have called was to request that the CEO of NNDPRA should hand in his resignation letter, and if possible, even dissolve the board of NNDPRA. And that is the honest truth. In as much as Dangote may have his shortcomings,
I don't know, you can help us clarify this. We have been told that for those who, Dr. Berry, if you can help us clarify this, we have been told that for those who are in the oil sector, that there are certain things, that there are certain licenses that are needed to operate. They talk about a license to establish, a license to build, and then a license to operate. And that is that final license that has not been granted. But that there are other licenses that have been granted, which has enabled the Dangote refinery to be able to sell its products and even to export if it so wishes to do so. But that final license, because the refinery is not fully done, has not been given. Can you clarify or confirm that to us?
Maokbe, Dangote had been selling products in Nigeria since February. The regulators are aware. Maokbe, Dangote invested $20 billion in this economy. If, let us even, without even considering that Dangote did not even have a final approval to even begin to roll out. A regulator is supposed to be a business enhancer. A regulator is not supposed to be a business killer. A regulator is supposed to, the essence of regulation is not to kill, is to build up, to support. Do you know the implication out there for foreign direct investors with such pronouncement? But have you bothered to ask yourself, how come the likes of Shell, Chevron, Total, they have investments in oil refineries in South Africa with combined refining capacity of 504,000 barrels a day? They don't have anyone in Nigeria. Have you bothered to ask yourself this question? Is this level of shenanigan? In as much as, like I said, I'm not holding brief Aliko Dangote. My opinion is well out there for everybody who cares to listen. You can always search it out by Google. The truth is, the regulators goofed. The same way they goofed in this Dangote issue, the same way they goofed in the issue, in the Niger Delta issue of the Orakuko axis, that I must keep on repeating. But let me give you another example. Are you aware that one of the reasons why the cost of crude oil production in Nigeria is very high is because of energy costs and other costs? I'll give you an example. Mobil has platforms that consume almost about 45,000 metric tons of AGO every month. And Mobil, it will have been cheaper for them to produce. Most of the depots, some of them that got backloading approval from the NDPRA to do backload, so they can backload to smaller vessels to go and serve those platforms at the cheaper vessel. As I'm talking to you, for 3 years, NDPRA has refused to approve the license for them to start backloading. And this has increased the cost of production for Mobil, and which has made Nigeria unattractive. I have never seen this thing. Go all over the world. I've been privileged to travel around the world. I have deep relationship with those who run the Senegal oil and gas industry, Angola, even Petrobras. And what we obtain in Nigeria is different. Our regulators stifle. Our regulators kill businesses. They don't support businesses. In as much as we may try to paint it as much as possible, in as much as Aliko may have his shortcomings, but I tell you, it is unconscionable, unacceptable for the regulator to step out in the global public to declare what he declared.
Okay, if you can hear me, you know, the NMDPRA certainly has questions to answer, I mean, from all that you have said. And I think that, you know, we're hoping that some of the things which you have said will also cause them to at least give a response to some of these issues which you have raised. However, I wanted to ask you why it is, because we understand the Dangote refinery is already producing. Importers, people who hitherto were importing, especially a product like AGO, that's diesel, which has been deregulated, why do you think they're still insistent? Because this is not something, it's not petrol. The NNPC, we know, is the sole importer of petrol. But why do you think that the importers, the marketers, are still importing from abroad? Why is are there hurdles in their way that making it difficult for them to buy from the Dangote refinery?
Okay. The oil and gas industry is a very dynamic industry. Anybody who satisfies the criteria, the quality and quantity specifications should be allowed to bring in product. In fact, Dangote actually stands at an advantage. If Dangote has crude to produce, Dangote should be able to produce price competitively because those importers will incur freight and insurance costs that may not be there for a Dangote refinery. I do not support the ban of importation. In fact, the market should be open. I'll give you an example. There was a time Coca-Cola was importing Five Alive. Chivita came up. Chivita became competitively better price and better quality. What did Coca-Cola do? Coca-Cola had to buy out 55% of Chivita to be able to be competitive. That's how it should be. Nobody. I give you an example. Niger Republic, the refinery at Zendam does 2.5 times the domestic consumption of Niger. Despite the fact that they produce 2.5 times what they consume, they never banned importation because it gives room. It makes it possible so that the producers in the local economy will not be tempted to hike prices or try to create oligopolistic tendencies. Over time, when Dangote becomes more efficient and his prices are more competitive, if, for example, I can buy a liter of AGO from Dangote, the same quality I can import cheaper, why will I import? It's a lot of demand and supply. All over the world, what you subsidize is production. You try as much as possible to support local industries to make them more competitive than importers. And when you do it, local industry will blossom. BUA has almost completed its 200,000 barrels a day in Eket. BUA has never for one day asked anybody for subsidy or demanded for preferential treatment. And we must commend him too. And there are other refineries. Edo Refinery is ramping up to about 5,000 barrels a day. And I can tell you, in a very transparent market, in a market where there is no opacity, many people will be encouraged to invest. And when we have refineries that they can even do the whole consumption capacity of Southern Africa, it helps Nigeria. Rather than spending $24 billion important things we can produce. When Dangote is efficiently run, BUA comes on stream, Edo Refinery expands, and others comes on stream. When they are producing competitively, people will be encouraged to buy from rather than import. If you stop import, manipulation will come in. I'll give you an example, the issue of cement.
All right.
Nigeria is the only place where cement manufacturers do earnings before interest and tax allowances of 58%. The whole same group that produces 10 times bigger than any other cement company in Nigeria, their EBITDA is between 17% and 21%. So rather than ban importation, we should support the local refineries and then encourage them to be more competitive. Over time, when they become more competitive, people will be discouraged from importing. And that is how it works.
All right, well, Uncle, at that point, Dr. Nameke Obiareri is an investment banking executive, also a development economist. Thank you very much indeed for your time here today.
Thanks for having me, Chamberlain.
All right, so there you go. That wraps it up today as well on the program. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Usof. Goodbye.
Thank you for watching. I'm Maupe Ogunyiso.
Admission, admission, admission. Admission is ongoing at Koladaisi University, Ibadan, where we have state-of-the-art laboratories and studios with structured, uninterrupted academic calendar. You can enroll for a variety of courses in the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences, Faculty of Law, Faculty of Pure and Applied Sciences, and Faculty of Arts Management and Social Sciences. For inquiries, please call 070-3795-3524, 070-3782-12